welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 15-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Lots of games to get through, lots of prizes to be won across the industry, so excited to get into it. Before we do, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. Work really hard on these videos, try to give you guys as much free content as possible to help you guys become better MLB DFS players, and I do offer a premium package, just link below in the description. You get access to all the same tools that I use in building my own lineups. Tons of great things. My starting pitcher data sheet, hot hitter statcast data, splits leaderboard, team hitting data, my bullpen, and then you get my power rankings and my cheat sheet. All of my research combined into one thing to give you the best plays on the day. And don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day. It's the guy that I'm picking to go deep that you should be getting in your lineups. Usually a fan favorite segment, so stay tuned for that. And yeah. As mentioned, anything you can do to support the channel, greatly appreciated. I'll be here all MLB season long. Let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. As always, I'd like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. You get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on the slate today is going to be Tyler Glasnow, taking on the Washington Nationals. Comes in with a 35.6% K rate overall, 14.4 swinging strike rate, 34.4% K rate against righties, and a 37.2% K rate against lefties. Really, really good across the board. Gets to take on a Washington team today that's not exactly the most ideal matchup in the world, but definitely not the worst. And when you're talking about a pitcher like Tyler Glasnow with his ability to strike hitters out, always going to have a lot of interest in him. He comes in as a big favorite, a 215 favorite. He's in the trop as far as how Tampa Bay is concerned for pitching. I always like to tell you guys about these ballpark factors. You can see Tropicana Field is very good for pitchers. A lot of red and yellow going out there in the outfield, so everything kind of matches up for Glasnow. Big favorite, should be having a spot to be getting a bunch of Ks. And a good hitting environment, or pitching environment, excuse me. Shane Bieber taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. 33.5% K overall, 15.4 swinging strike rate, 32.6% K rate against righties, and a 34.6% K rate against lefties. Also very, very good across the board, and he gets to take on a St. Louis team. And as far as that's concerned, it's in St. Louis, which is a great pitching environment as well. So that's going to line up pretty good for Shane Bieber. He comes in at 11.5 over on DraftKings. They got him priced at 10.3. So he is priced above Glasnow on both sites. He is a little bit less of a favorite. And I tend to think for that reason, I'm going to lean Glasnow. If you're asking me to pick between the two of these, both these guys are going to be top options on the slate for sure. Of course, I'm going to dig into some strikeout data, pitch data, and all that stuff, and figure out who has the most K upside, because that's what we're high on here. But as far as the first look on this slate in flat numbers, it's looking like Glasnow both tops him out in K rate, and then also the matchup, the ballpark, and the fact that he's a bigger favorite on the slate, I'd probably lean towards him. But Shane Bieber's a tremendous option as well, and I wouldn't call you crazy at all if you disagree with me and you want to go the other way. Dinelson Lamet taking on the Chicago Cubs, 33.3% K overall, 14.4 swinging strike rate, 35.1% K rate against righties, and a 31.7% K rate against lefties. Problem with Lamet is he hasn't really been very stretched out. He's still priced way down on these websites. He's priced at 7.3 on DraftKings. As far as his pitch count last time out, he was able to get up to 72 pitches. That's definitely a trend in the right direction for sure. Gave up 1 earned run, 6 Ks after the time before, going 64 pitches. And yeah, I mean, the guy's building his pitch count up little by little. As far as his price tag over on DraftKings, he's priced, on FanDuel, he's priced at 6.5. So he is priced very affordably. The Chicago Cubs have been striking out quite a bit on the season. It's just a matter of pitch count. I would expect him to be able to get up more towards the 8K range. He is definitely cheaper on these websites. I would say he's a little bit more of an appropriate play. Well, it's tough because he's cheaper on FanDuel, but at the same time on FanDuel, you only get one pitcher to pick in your lineup. So if you're playing him on FanDuel, you better have some bats that you just think are completely going to go absolutely off and top the slate. But on DraftKings, a little cheaper. You got to play 2 pitchers. You know, maybe it makes some sense. Just know you're kind of capping your upside with a guy in a limited pitch count to an extent, but he's got a huge K rate. He's taking on a team that strikes out a bunch. I understand if you feel like this would be beneficial to be going there today. So, Carlos Rodon taking on the Toronto Blue Jays, 32.4% K overall, 14.2 swinging strike rate, 31.9% K rate against righties, and a 34.9% K rate against lefties. Very, very good across the board. Problem is he has to take on a Toronto Blue Jays team tonight that has been a tough opponent all year long. I'm not getting all too excited to target him, to be honest. I think the strikeout upside is going to be somewhat limited. And depending upon the lineup they roll, of course, I'm not thinking that he's really going to be able to compete with these other guys that are priced in the same price range. Moving further along, Robbie Ray taking on the Chicago White Sox. He's a lefty taking on a right-handed heavy team that's very, very good against left-handed pitching, so I'm not getting all too excited to target Robbie Ray tonight, to be honest. The Chicago White Sox have a 4.57 implied run total. He has the upside. If you want to go there, I wouldn't call you crazy, but I would be much more likely to go to a guy like Sonny Gray taking on this Milwaukee Brewers team. 29.4% K overall. The ground ball, fly ball stuff's a lot better. The hard contact stuff's a lot better. And he's taking on a Milwaukee squad that's a much weaker opponent against him, and they have a bunch of strikeouts. So I would definitely be leaning towards Sonny Gray. He comes in as a 130 favorite. His team has a 4.46 implied run total. He's expected to get some run support. Comes in at 8K on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they have him priced at 8.4. Looking at his recent performances, you can see last time out he had 8 Ks, 3 earned run against the Philadelphia team that strikes out quite a bit. And last time facing off against Milwaukee, he had 8 Ks, 3 earned runs. So, ideally we'd like to get those earned runs down, but the strikeout upside's been there, and I think that if he can pitch a solid game throughout, not allow many runs, the strikeout should be there right alongside that. So, definitely interested in him. Walker Buehler taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates is another weak opponent. 28.3% K overall, 28.9% K rate against righties, and a 27.7% K rate against lefties. Really solid across the board as far as K rate's concerned. He's on a Dodgers team where they should always give him run support. One of the best lineups in the league. He's in PNC Park, which is a good pitching environment. And he is a 192 favorite. So I think that Walker Buehler is definitely a viable option on this slate today. And then once we get past him, things start to go downhill real quick. We definitely do have some great matchups, guys that we can be targeting in specific matchups on the slate today, so we'll definitely break those down for you guys. Matthew Boyd taking on the Seattle Mariners, a guy with a high K rate. He just has a hard contact issue in a major way. 26.4% K overall, 13% swinging strike rate, 26.2% K rate against righties, and a 27.4% K rate against lefties. His only issue is how much hard contact he gives up to right-handed hitters. And I do think he's in a predicament today where if this game does play, it looks like there's some weather concern. We could definitely be playing him because he's taking on a Seattle Mariners team that just strikes out that much. So I would be looking to him. I think that Alex Wood taking on the Texas Rangers is going to be a tremendous option as well today. Guy that's having a really good breakout year, 22.7% K overall, 24% K rate against righties, and an 18.1% K rate against lefties traditionally. He's in a matchup taking on a Texas Rangers squad that strikes out a bunch, however, and specifically against left-handed pitching. I think that these guys are going to be offering some pretty high K rates here. He comes in at 8.7 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they have him priced at 8K. And looking at his most recent performances, you can see he's got blown up twice in a row. He gave up 7 earned runs against the Angels, 4 earned runs against the Dodgers. I do think that the Texas team is going to provide a much better matchup for him. And looking at what he did last time, he had 7 Ks, 1 earned run through 7 innings pitched against the same Texas team. So I think that Alex Wood is going to be a good option today. And then a couple more guys. Disclaimer here, if you've been watching the channel for quite some time, I am a bit of a sucker for David Peterson because he's treated me well in the past, but he's got a 22.5% K overall, good ground ball, fly ball stuff. His only issue is his walk rate. He gets himself in trouble. He'll get runners on base from time to time based upon his walk rate, but he does get a Baltimore Orioles team tonight that does strike out a bunch. Looking at the game lines, they do have 4.63 implied run total against him. David Peterson does come in as a 120 favorite, and I do think that he does have some K upside in this matchup. It's a little bit risky, of course, but I think that he's a viable option today. Wouldn't be surprised to see me playing him because, once again, I'm a sucker for David Peterson, but definitely not one of the top options on the slate, but he's viable. And then lastly, I will say John Lester taking on the Tampa Bay Rays is a team we've been targeting all year long with left-handed pitching. They're just not nearly as effective against left-handed pitching. I'm not all that excited to play John Lester, to be honest. It's kind of scary to play John Lester. But with that being said, if there was ever a matchup to do it, this would be the one. So he's a little bit of a tournament dart for you if you're interested in going there in tournaments. And with that being said, let's go ahead and transition over to bats. As always, I like to go ahead and short my sheet by Sierra, scale interactive ERA. It's a good way of determining how good a pitcher's been in the past and how good they're projected to be in the future in their career. And the top guy on the slate today to target is going to be Zach Davies taking on the San Diego Padres. Really bad ground ball, fly ball stuff. K rate, not really the best. Gives up a 423 slugging to righties, a 387 slugging to lefties. Definitely much worse against righties, but really just doesn't strike anyone out, and the ball is going to be put in play a lot, which means we can definitely be looking to the San Diego Padres tonight. Most notably, Tommy Pham, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Will Myers, all those power righties. And then, of course, you can't throw in the lefties around out your stacks. They're not quite as in a good spot taking on Davies, but no issues with it, especially if they can get to the bullpen. The Padres are definitely a team that could be going off tonight. Antonio Senzatella taking on the Miami Marlins. This is a guy that I always say I don't think is that bad of a pitcher. He has a very low strikeout rate, and he plays in Coors Field frequently because he's on the Rockies. And I'm not all too interested in targeting him, to be honest. A 456 slugging, giving up 430 or 73 slugging, giving up the lefties, but the ground ball fly ball stuff's still good. And he's taking on a Miami Marlins squad that's just not really the best talented up and down, and they're in Miami, which isn't the best hitting environment. So if you went there, I wouldn't call you crazy. I just don't think it's as good of a spot as you would tend to think, but looking at the data and all that stuff. John Duplantier taking on the Oakland Athletics. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's terrible. Hard contact stuff terrible. Slugging is terrible. And most notably against right-handed hitting. He gives up a 510 slugging, 42.7% hard contact rate. Against lefties, it's a 372 slugging. Ground ball, fly ball, hard contact stuff is still really bad. So as far as I'm concerned, you can definitely be targeting both sides of the plate here. If there's any downside, it's in Oakland, which isn't the best hitting environment, and it's about 58 degrees, which isn't the best hitting weather. But it does look like there's 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. I'm not scared of the Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, and the A's definitely have some guys with some power. Mark Canha, Matt Olson, Seth Brown, Jed Lowry, Sean Murphy, Matt Chapman, Mitch Moreland. Up and down this lineup. No issues with the stacking up the A's. Just know the environment isn't the best there, but they're definitely in a great spot taking on this pitcher today. Martin Perez taking on the Houston Astros. Left-handed pitcher that's pretty good at limiting fly balls, and he's pretty good in the hard contact category. He does, however, struggle against righties the most. A 440 slugging, giving up ground ball, fly ball stuff isn't always the best. And he does have to take on a Houston Astros team who definitely has some some right-handed hitters that really match left-handed pitching. Does look like there's some questionable weather in Boston tonight. Could be a bit of an issue, but if it's good to go, I do think the Houston Astros could definitely take advantage. Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, Yulieski Gurriel, Chas McCormick, Miles Straw, Martin Maldonado. No issues with you going to the Astros stack. Jordan Lyles taking on the San Francisco Giants. Another guy that's really bad across the board. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's terrible. Hard contact stuff's terrible. Gives up a 463 slugging to righties and a 491 slugging to lefties. I would argue he's possibly the top pitcher that I'd like to target so far that we've gone over. And it's in Texas. So the Giants only have a 4.32 implied run total. It's in Texas. It's a great hitting environment. Pulling up the chart for you guys as far as that's concerned. You can see there's a lot of green going on as far as Globe Life Field. I always like targeting guys, especially when you're talking about a Giants team that typically plays in San Francisco, which is a terrible hitting environment. They get a big upgrade going to Texas. Unfortunately, their lineup isn't completely healthy right now. They're missing out on some guys like a Mike Yastrzemski, but I still think this is a great spot. I'm hoping they release a lineup that I really like because I would definitely like getting them at some lower ownership if no one's going to be playing them. So Buster Posey, Alex Dickerson, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford through the middle order, Steven Duger, Lamonte Wade at the top, Mike Tockman's got some power at the bottom of the order. I think they could be a good sneaky stack tonight for sure. Marco Gonzalez taking on the Detroit Tigers. I'm not really interested in targeting the Detroit Tigers, to be honest, for the most part, but I guess we got to talk about it because Marco Gonzalez is definitely not the best pitcher in the league. They only have a 4.13 implied run total, however, but if I'm playing anyone, I'm playing the righties that match lefties, most notably, Jonathan Scope, Miguel Cabrera, Eric Haase in the middle has really been crushing lefties, and then you can round it out with Robbie Grosso and Heimer Candelario in that one. Chris Bubic taking on the Los Angeles Angels. This has been a guy we've been targeting all season long. He doesn't really scare us. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's terrible. He gives up a 409 slugging to righties. And the Angels definitely have a pretty good implied run total tonight. Looking at their lines, they have a 4.71 implied run total. It's 71 degrees out there in LA. Not the best hitting environment, but definitely not the worst. And they have some guys that can crush left-handed pitching for sure. Justin Upton, Anthony Rendon, Jose Iglesias, Max Stassi, Juan Lagares, Taylor Ward. And then the lefties as far as Shohei Ohtani and Jared Walsh. No issues with going to them to round out your stacks as well because they can get Bubic out of the game. They're probably going to face some righties later on, and these guys can just hit overall anyways. John Lester taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. I had mentioned maybe pitching him, but you can definitely play bats against him. I had mentioned a lot of hard contact, given up to right-handed hitting, a 473 slugging, giving up 36.8% hard contact rate. Not the greatest at all. And for that reason, some of these Tampa Bay righties bats could be in your player pool tonight. Manuel Margot, Yandy Diaz, Randy Arozarena, a lot of power. Mike Rousseau, a lot of power. And Mike Zunino, a lot of power. Those righties at the bottom of the order can definitely rake, so could be playing those guys tonight. David Peterson taking on the Baltimore Orioles. If you're playing bats against him, you're going to really want to target the right-handed bats that can really slug. And he's taking on a Baltimore Orioles squad that has a 4.63 implied run total. I mentioned maybe playing him. It is in Camden Yards, which is a great hitting environment, and then it's 84 degrees with 4 winds blowing out, and it's very humid. So it's pretty good hitting weather, and you got guys like Trey Mancini, Anthony Santander, Freddie Galvis, Ryan Mountcastle, Miguel Franco. No issues with you stacking them up if you want to go there. Carlos Martinez taking on Cleveland. This has been a team that's been pretty watered down all season long, to be honest. I'm not getting all too excited to target Cleveland. Then you look at their implied run total. They only have a 3.96. It's in St. Louis. I'm not getting too excited to play Cleveland, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. Drew Smyly taking on Philadelphia has been pretty good throughout the season. However, his numbers, his underlying numbers for the last 2 years has been really bad, and he's started to kind of show some of those underlying numbers, I believe, these last few games. So, pulling up his game logs as far as his recent performances are concerned, you can see 3 earned runs, 7 earned runs, 3 earned runs the last 3 times out. This has been a guy I've always loved to target in DFS. He came over to Atlanta. He's looked really good. I was trying to give him some credit, but I'm not on the Drew Smyly train. It's in Philadelphia, which is a great hitting environment as well. Pulling up the diagram for you guys. This is the ballpark that I always like to target in DFS. As far as the Phillies are concerned, you can see Citizens Bank Park. Lots of green going on there, especially to left-handed batters, down the right field line. Or any right-handed hitters that can go the opposite way. But overall, just a great hitting environment. And I'm not a real big believer in Drew Smyly. I think the hard contact, the ground ball, fly ball stuff, this stuff you're going to start seeing. He does have a 25% K rate, so if you're playing guys with high K rates, he could strike them out, and it could not really pay off for you. But I'm willing to play guys like JT Realmuto, Rhys Hoskins, Gene Segura, Andrew McCutchen, Alec Boehm, Ronald Torreyes, every single righty that cracks this lineup. And to be quite frank, I'm really willing to play the lefties as well, because no one's going to want to play lefties, lefty on lefty. Drew Smyly sucks against both sides of the plate on his underlying numbers. He's actually been worse against the lefties. He gives up a 596 slugging to those left-handed bats, 47.9% hard contact rate. Like, that's terrible. So, and his K rate dips down, and his walk rate dips down, so they should have more pitches to face. So, I think a guy like a Bryce Harper is in a very sneaky spot. Odubel Herrera's in a very sneaky spot tonight. And I like the Philadelphia offense. Bruce Zimmerman taking on the New York Mets. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's all really bad. Against righties, he's pretty bad. Against lefties, he has a much better ground ball rate, but he still gives up quite a bit of slugging. But a 517 slugging up to righties, 40.3% hard contact rate, a 368 WOBA. Not good. The Mets get to go into Baltimore on the road and take on this guy, and they definitely have some guys that you could be playing that do match left-handed pitching. Francisco Lindor, James McCann, Pete Alonso, Thomas Nido, Brandon Drury for the middle of the order. And then if you want to get sneaky, play Dom Smith as the lefty, Billy McKinney. Maybe some guys that aren't quite as owned. No issues with that at all. I think the Mets are a pretty good stack today for sure. Robbie Ray taking on the Chicago White Sox. I mentioned his hard contact issues against right-handed bats. The Chicago White Sox are a team that absolutely mashes left-handed pitching, so that always gets me excited. Does have a very good K rate, so if you're playing guys with high K rates, they could strike out and cost you in tournaments, so that's the risk you run. But in tournaments, we don't really care because we're going for that power. We need guys that can put a surge into the ball, and I definitely think that the White Sox have quite a few guys that can do that against Robbie Ray. Tim Anderson, Nick Madrigal, Yoan Moncada, Jose Abreu, Yermin Mercedes, Yasmani Grandal, Andrew Vaughn, Adam Engel, Danny Mendick. This entire lineup is designed to hit left-handed pitching. There's only one guy in this lineup that I could say that is better against. I guess there's two that you could technically argue that are better against righties and lefties, and that would be both switch hitters in Yoan Moncada and Yasmani Grandal. So, other than that, even those guys can hit the left-handed pitchers, so no issues with you going there. Michael Pineda taking on the New York Yankees. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's been pretty terrible. Gives up a 421 slugging to righties, a 402 slugging to lefties. Really not that great across the board. Does have a pretty good K rate, and to be honest, the Yankees have been absolutely terrible lately, so if you don't even want to go near them, I don't blame you, but they do have a 4.86 implied run total. They are taking on Pineda, who does give up hard contact, and they are taking on a Minnesota team that has a very bad bullpen on the back end. So if they're able to work Pineda, score some runs early on, get to the bullpen, they should be in a very good situation to put up many runs in this one. So Gigi LeMahieu, Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, Gio Urshela, Gleyber Torres, Rougned Odor, Gary Sanchez, Clint Frazier. Really no issues with you going to any of these guys up and down the order. So, could be looking there. Matthew Boyd, we mentioned his hard contact against right-handed bats, so Seattle righties with power you could be targeting. And I also want to mention in that same game for the Yankees, Jordan Montgomery taking on Minnesota. The Minnesota squad can really slug left-handed pitching, and Montgomery does give up a 489 slugging to righties. Ground ball, fly ball stuff is not the best, and the Minnesota squad could be in a good position to be putting up some runs as well. Kyle Garlick, Josh Donaldson, Jorge Blanco, Nelson Cruz, Miguel Sano, Ryan Jeffers, all those righties that can really put a surge into a ball against left-handed pitching, I would have interest in today. And that is my overall breakdown of this huge slate tonight. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Jose Abreu taking on Robbie Ray. I'd mentioned his hard contact issues against righties. It goes a lot further than that. A lot of fly balls given up as well. And when specifically breaking down his repertoire and what he throws, Jose Abreu is going to be a huge issue for him. Reliant on the fastball, about 95 mile an hour. Fastball thrown 55% of the time. Jose Abreu features a 1,000 ISO with a 60% hard contact rate against that pitch. 648 WOBA over a 10 batted ball limit sample size. That's a big enough one to really stick out. And then as far as the secondary pitches, really reliant on the slider first, and then he'll break out the curveball against the slider. Jose Abreu features a 244 ISO with a 384 WOBA, 48.15% hard contact rate, and the curveball Abreu crushes as well. A 348 ISO, 425 WOBA. Love this spot for Jose Abreu. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Jose Abreu. Get him in your lineups, and that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. Feel free to leave any of your favorite plays on the slate down in the comment sections. Hot takes, maybe your own home run call, maybe your favorite stack, any of that stuff. Always love hearing from you guys. Wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.